everyone, welcome back to This Book Belongs to Pam. Today we are going to do my very first reading wrap-up of the year, January reading wrap-up. Before I go into the wrap-up, I just want to say thank you to every single one of you who has been watching my videos and those of you who are subscribed as well. I think last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, we hit 100 subscribers. 100 subscribers, like 100 of you are subscribed to watch more book videos from me, and that makes me really happy because this is such a passion project for me. So thank you, and if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Just kidding. If you have any ideas for videos or if you have books that you want me to check out, leave them down in the comments and I will try my best to get to it and feature it in a video. I am so excited to read more books this year. So yeah, thank you for being here, and with that said, let's head on to our January wrap-up. In January, I read 6 books, and I think I picked really good books to read for the first month of the year because a lot of the books that I read were just A+, and then a lot of them made me think, made me giddy, made me happy. Basically, I enjoyed most of the books that I read in January. So the first book that I read was If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha. Wow, this book. Very strong start for 2022. So If I Had Your Face is a novel, a contemporary fiction novel that follows the lives of 5 women in South Korea. In this novel, we are exposed to what it's like being a woman in today's South Korea. We are following 5 women. We have Kyuri, Miho, Sujin, Ara, and Wona. And they all live in the same apartment building. But they still live very different lives. And I think that's a sort of nod to how we as women live in the same world, in the same society, but somehow our realities are very different depending on the circumstances that we are born in. So I think that's just a great way to, acknowledge that fact. We are following these 5 women, and we get glimpses of their story through anecdotes, flashbacks, and I understand that it might feel a little bit disorganized, disjointed, because there's no real plot to the book. Nothing is really resolved in this novel. We don't really have a beginning, middle, and end. We're just given pieces of the woman experience and we're left to deal with it at the end. The book is written in multiple perspectives, and I really like that because for each character, we get to see what they think of other characters, what other characters think of them, and what they think of themselves. It's like this 3-pronged approach that helps illuminate who each character is, their story, their personality, and it's just a great way to see them as a whole, as a person. Sort of introduce the 5 women that we follow in this book. We have Kyuri, who is a room salon girl. So room salon girls are kind of like entertainers. So in Korea, you have this business where men, mostly businessmen, entertaining their guests or their friends, they book a room, and then you have the room salon girls to cater to them in terms of serving them drinks, singing karaoke with them. It doesn't necessarily lead to prostitution, but some of them do, and basically only the prettiest women can become room salon girls. So that's Kyuri. And then we have Sujin, who wants to become a room salon girl. We have Ara, who is a hairdresser. And then we have Miho, an artist. And then we have Wona, who is sort of like a regular working class woman in Korea, and she is also an expecting mother. Throughout the book, I really enjoyed the storytelling thread of comparison, as in If I Had Your Face, because it's weaved in very skillfully. We have Sujin, as I said, who wants to become a room salon girl. She wants to be as pretty and as sexy as Kyuri, so she can become a room salon girl. But then we have Kyuri, who really envies the passion that Miho has for her art. Then Miho, who wants sort of like an uncomplicated, simple life as Ara, and then Ara, who wants to be as happy-go-lucky as Sujin, and then a little bit removed from the four, we have Wonna, who is sort of touted as this standard Korean working-class woman, but she finds herself utterly unhappy despite being in the path that the society recommended for her. And then throughout the book, there's also this concept of a woman's body being her strongest currency. We have women selling their body in the form of being a room salon girl, entertaining men, maybe even prostitution. We have women who are changing their appearance in order to get ahead in life. We also have women who are pretty much trying to find fulfillment and happiness through pregnancy, through giving birth and becoming a mother. So there's just a lot of these things going on throughout the book, and like I said, there's no actual plot to it, so you're just left to think about all of these different pieces of information, and I guess as a woman you can sort of relate to it even if you're not in the exact same situations that they are in. You get to understand what it's like to have to present yourself well in order to be taken seriously and things like that. At the end of the book, there are actually a couple of guide questions, and one of those was interesting to me. It asked, why do you think we don't have a chapter in the perspective of Sujin? So Sujin is the woman who wants to get plastic surgery in order to become as pretty as Curie so that she can become a room salon girl. I was thinking about it a little bit when I was preparing for this video, but I think I need to read it a little bit more. Like, I need to reread the book in order to actually form coherent thoughts on this. But I think we didn't get a chapter on Sujin because Sujin is pretty much showed as like a glimmer of hope, but also B, a symbol of naivety. Glimmer of hope because she is sort of involved in all of the characters' shot at happiness. She gets Curie her interview, she gets Ara her job, she's basically taking care of Miho as if her life depended on it. So she's just this glimmer of happiness, of hope in their lives. But at the same time, she's also kind of portrayed as naive because she wants to go into this world of being a room salon girl, and as we see from Curie's perspective, it's not really as glamorous as it seems from the outside. So that's kind of how Sujin is sort of portrayed in this sort of like dichotomy. And I think the reason why the author did not give us her perspective was because the author wants us to think for ourselves whether we think Sujin is this hope, or is she like heading for her own struggles, her own destruction, if you will. What the book, I think, is trying to say is that there's just so many things that we as women have against us in this world. If I Had Your Face isn't trying to resolve anything, but it's simply painting a picture of the reality of women, not just in Korea, not just in South Korea, but all over the world. And I really loved it. I think I already talked so much about this book, but I really, really love the book, and I highly recommend you read it. So that is If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha. The next book that I read is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I have the physical book. Can you believe it? It's so rare that I have the physical book. Whenever I do any of the wrap-ups or reading vlogs, I'm always excited. This is my first Taylor Jenkins read, and she did not disappoint. I read the prologue of the book, and I already knew that I was going to love her writing, and of course I did. So I'm gonna read something from the prologue that I really like. So she's talking about all of the fires in Malibu in California. She says, "But the land is young once again, ready to grow something new. Destruction and renewal, rising from the ashes. The story of fire." I love that. I really love the metaphor of fire. A fire that destroys, that ravages, but then also renews and rebirths. That metaphor for family relationships, you know, all of the struggles that you had in your childhood, in your parents' childhood, and then the things that you take with you and the things that you need to let go of in order to be reborn as a new person. That metaphor, I really love that. So what is Malibu Rising about? In Malibu Rising, we are following Nina Riva, who is the eldest daughter of June and Mick Riva. And apparently, Mick Riva is one of the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I have not read that book, so I don't really know the reference yet. But that was just a cool nod that the books are somehow connected in that sense. We jump between two timelines. We have Nina in present day, where she is dealing with the aftermath of her tennis superstar husband cheating on her. And then we also have the timeline of June and Mick's love story, their story of falling in love, of starting their family, of Mick's ambition and how he pursued his dream, and his eventual infidelity. Nina's timeline is told with the backdrop of an impending fire. So at the beginning, I think the first chapter, we know that there's going to be a fire at some point. Like, we know the time that the fire is going to happen, or at least around what time the fire is going to happen. And each chapter is numbered as the time. So we have like 7 a.m., noon. So I think it was really smart to have the time as a chapter, because you have this tension building up from the start. You already know that the fire is going to happen at this time. And you can see each chapter, we get closer and closer to that time. And the events in the book get closer and closer to sort of erupting into a climax. And I think that's a really good storytelling technique. This book has to do with a lot of family drama, relationships with your family, with yourself, and somehow just exploring how children often carry a lot of baggage from their parents' expectations, their parents' mistakes in life, and how those manifest in their own life. I honestly didn't care for the behind-the-scenes look at the secret lives of the celebrities and rich people, because there's a lot of that. Because Mick is a rock star and then Nina is a supermodel. So they're rich people. They live in Malibu. So there's a lot of that, but I didn't really care for it. But I ate up all of the family drama, all of the sort of relationship-based stories in the book. So there's this passage at the end of the book that I really, really loved, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but just mute me until I close the book, okay? June had given her children this box packed to the brim with her own experiences, her own treasures and heartbreaks, her own guilts and pleasures, triumphs and losses, values and biases, duties and sorrow. And Nina had been carrying around this box her whole life, feeling the full weight of it. But it was not her job to carry the full box. Her job was to sort through the box, to decide what to keep and to put the rest down. She had to choose what, of the things she inherited from the people who came before her, she wanted to bring forward, and what of the past she wanted to leave behind. That writing, oh my god, I really love that passage, and I think it spoke to me a lot, because I do also carry the same baggage, having a less than perfect pleasant childhood, having parents who are annulled, and having a blended family and all that. So there's just a lot of things here that resonate with me on sort of like a molecular level. So yeah, Malibu Rising, I read this in one sitting from like 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. ish. I cried a lot while I was reading this book. I'm not sure if it was because the contents of the book are really sad, but rather because I related so much to the contents of the book, and the writing is immaculate. So yeah, Malibu Rising, second book of 2022, also A+. The next book that I read is How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino. Like many readers last year, I picked up this book because it was announced that Hayao Miyazaki of Studio Ghibli is coming out of his nth retirement in order to bring this book into life. The book was published in 1937, and we are following a boy, Junichi Honda, nicknamed Copper, who is curious about life. That's basically how I would describe him. He's young and he's very curious about life. He is endlessly asking questions about science, people, society, history, and the receiver of his questions is mostly his uncle, who is, I believe, a graduate student or a university student at least. So we read two perspectives. We have Copper as he is, experiencing his life as a 15-year-old, and we have his uncle writing to Copper in a diary. The book is very much philosophical. It reminded me of Little Prince in that way. Depending on when you read it and sort of your circumstances at the time that you're reading it, you are going to get different things from it. You're going to get different lessons from it. This book reminded me how we are all once full of wonder as children. Every little thing that happens in our lives are exciting, and we're always curious, and we feel our emotions deeply. And I like how this book reminded me of that time, reminded me of how we were once like that. The book may seem a little bit slow, a little bit meandering, but if you are in that mindset of examining yourself, examining your life, or the things that you do, then I think that's a good place to start. So yeah, that is How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino. I'm just gonna breeze past through this, but the next book is a reread of this one, the Mina Lima Illustrated Edition, because I got it for Christmas last year. For the last two books, if you watch my reading vlog, the Magical Readathon reading vlog, you already know which books I read. I'm going to link that in the cards and in the description box, so go watch that as well if you're curious about my real-time thoughts on those books. One of the books was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Oh my gosh, this book. Red, White, and Royal fucking Blue. I adore this book so much. Very quickly, if you're not familiar about this book, which I doubt you aren't, we are following Alex, first son of the United States of America, and His Royal Highness Prince Henry of England. I don't know his official title, but I'm just gonna go with that. They kind of have this rival status because they're both good looking, they're the position that they're in, and they're very much pitted against each other in the tabloids and in the media. One day they both attend the wedding and they get riled up and find themselves in an incident that could endanger the US-UK international relations. So now they have to go into this fake friendship kind of scheme and work through their mutual dislike of each other in order to preserve peace, I guess. This book is undeniably ridiculous, but also very stupidly fun. I was living for their banter, their email exchanges. I really love those parts of the book. I really enjoyed the nod to arts, to history, to literature. Their emails to each other were my absolute favorite. I think I mentioned this in the reading vlog, but I really loved how they switched from this grand, dramatic, poetic declarations of love to
straight up sexting.
This is also my first romance book, I think, in a while, so I was just living for it. The only thing that I didn't really like that much was the flow. There were parts here that felt like they came out of nowhere, but that didn't really affect the happiness that I got from reading the book. And then there's also this emphasis on the US presidential campaign / elections. So if you're not into that, you might, not like a chunk of the book because it does really go deep into that. But I didn't really mind it because I thought it was a good backdrop for the insurmountable odds that are against them. I wish there were more hiding in plain sight scenarios where they just can't help but show their affection to each other, but they're in public and they have to be very discreet. So I really enjoyed those parts of the book. I wish there were more because I was living for those. Overall, as you can see, I really enjoyed the book, and I'm definitely picking up the hardback once it's released on October 2022. So yeah, that's Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And finally, we have the one, the only, The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I'm pretty sure anyone who watches BookTube already know of this book, but in case you don't, here's a very quick summary. We have Olive. She is a biology graduate student at Stanford, and then she finds herself in a very awkward situation. To prove to her best friend Anne that she's okay with Anne dating her ex-casual boyfriend, she dives headfirst, or I guess lips first, to the next available guy walking through the hallway. But given her luck, the guy in question was none other than Adam. Genius, brooding, tall, apparently very tall, terror professor at Stanford. Quick disclaimer. Adam is not Olive's professor. He does not have any official influence or sway in her academics. They're just a graduate student and a professor in the same institution. I do not know the specifics of university relationship rules and ethics in the United States, so I just went with the flow. So with this crazy chapter 1 begins a series of fake dating scenarios where Olive and Adam has to continuously pretend that they're actually dating. I enjoy this book, and I believe in my reading vlog I said that I really loved their conversations. I loved their banter because it felt natural. It felt like they were organically discovering pieces of each other's life through the conversations. Nothing is like just explicitly said. You're finding out about them the same way they're finding out about each other. And I'm a sucker for a main girl being privy to the more vulnerable, I guess more real personality of the love interest. So Olive peeling the layers of Adam, the terror professor, to find Adam the person was just endearing to me, and I really enjoyed those parts. With that said, I actually had a hard time getting into this book because for the first 6 or so chapters, there were just a lot of very cringy, childish things that happened. In a fake dating trope, normally the main couple gets thrown into scenarios where they have to do things to convince people that yes, we are dating, this is not fake at all. Normally, I love those moments, but in this book, somehow, the scenarios that I get into are very childish, very juvenile. Sure, maybe if you're 14, it would be cute, but no, they're like late 20s, early 30s, I think. And they're also in an academic setting, so that just takes things up a notch a bit. And I don't want to spoil the details for anyone who wants to read the book, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I really didn't enjoy those parts, but after those cringy moments though, it was smooth sailing and it was very enjoyable because we get to the part where they start to realize their feelings for each other. I really like the misunderstanding / third act conflict part of the book because it wasn't just them being, I don't know, pathetic individuals and sorry for themselves, but it actually goes into each of their insecurities and the things that they worry about that felt very realistic for, you know, the situation that they're in. I honestly didn't care much for how it ended. Like the last couple of scenes, I didn't vibe with the diner scene at all. If you know, you know. But as a whole, I quite enjoyed the book. And honestly, I think I'm gonna pick up the next book in the series, which I think features a different couple but in the same STEM setting. So yeah, that was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I also actually read and DNF'd. Look at me now. I'm getting better at DNFing book. I read and DNF a book which was also for the Magical Readathon TBR, and that was The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. I DNF'd this book because it was hard for me to get into it, and then I found out some things about how the book was made that didn't really sit well with me. If you're curious as to why I DNF'd the book, I went on to a lengthy, not really rant, but just story in my reading vlog. So I'm gonna link that specific part in the description as well. So those are the books I read in January. I read 6 books, DNF'd 1 book, and I love pretty much every single book that I finished. So good start, strong start for January, and I hope that February would also be a good reading month for me. I'm currently reading Leave the World Behind by Ruman Alam. This is also for my Magical Readathon, and I'm actually going to be starting the vlog for that after filming this one. So if you enjoyed this video, if you like my wrap up and you want to see more content from me, please consider subscribing, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.